Hi, my name is Kim for Mark. I am the author of the series, The Chronicles of Nadine. Talking about today is the very sticky subject of abortion. So a lot of people have said, no, don't talk about that kind of thing, but I'm going to give it a go in any case because it is one of the topics that is in one of my books. So just a little bit of back history. To work for an office furniture company many years ago, and went to the bathrooms of the place that I was working for, and I found a young lady I worked with. She was the business development manager, and she was curled up on the ground, just sobbing her eyes out. I had like a bit of a panic attack, and I said, what's going on? It uncovered she had many years before she had had an abortion. Now, you may agree with abortion and you may disagree with abortion. The fact is that this woman was extremely traumatized. And what I discovered is that she had a couple of things that had caused her to make this decision. The first one is that she was a substance abuser. And, that made her emotions quite erratic at the times. And she had also had a relationship with a married man. And when he found out how to strangle her, she turned to her parents to ask them for support. Their decision, they were too old to help rear another baby. So basically, all of her avenues of support started shutting down one after the other and to terminate the pregnancy. So after that, it was a dreadful time. I mean, we spent a lot of time engaging it, and she had emotions that just went all over the place. She had 3 anniversaries: the anniversary when she found out that she was pregnant, the anniversary of when she'd had the termination, the anniversary of when the baby would have been born, and she was just never the same again. It was incredibly distressing for me because I'm a kind of person, I like to fix things. But this was not something I could fix. And I found that when she wasn't in the house, it felt like the house was overwhelmed with this sadness that was coming down the walls. And as it transcribed, I had a couple of people in my life that I discovered that it had the same. The thing is that they never spoke about it. And it traumatized me for a very, very long time because I discovered there were just more and more women that seemed to be okay on the outside. They had careers, good jobs, but they were suffering from this silent fear of telling other people and the self-condemnation. And some of them put themselves into positions after that, almost like to punish themselves. So I write in the Chronicles of Nadine, they are purely medieval fantasy. They are completely fiction. But I draw on a lot of emotional issues that people face, whether it is alcohol abuse, whether it is abortion, whether it's depression, bullying, those topics that I cover in the book. So I'm going to introduce you to a character called Mary. And Mary is basically a tribute to all the young women and sometimes older women that I know who have made that decision and are suffering through that decision. Mary was a servant in Lady Christine's environment, and also with Lord Logan. They were her employers, and she worked very, very hard. Her father was in life, and so he was quite crotchety and difficult. Many substance abuse people are. And Mary internalized that she had absolutely no romantic interests. She just worked day in and day out to be able to try and provide for her family. I have to say, I've had unplanned pregnancies, and the fear of how you're going to provide for the child is absolutely overwhelming. People will tell what is the I made a different decision. I have an 18-year-old daughter that I'm incredibly proud of. But there were days where it was dreadful. I would spend Sunday with people at church, and then I would say to them, what are you going to be doing after church? And they said, I'm going to be going home and having lunch, and no one ever invited me for lunch. And my parents were living in Port Elizabeth. I was alone with a baby that I couldn't communicate with. In South Africa, we've got a series called Seven de Laan, and they would have what they call an omnibus on a Sunday. And I would sit with this baby alone, packed all of that, knows that she cannot work and have this baby, or she perceives that. Because I have to say to you, once I made my decision to have my child, things worked out for me. I found support, but at the time, I thought I'm never going to get the support. So it was very important for me to be able to explain the emotional journey that she goes through. And the book is written in a way that helps young women, and sometimes older women, because a lot of women will make that decision when they're old. I work through her journey. I work through her journey on how she made the decision, what actions she took. She got to the place of making the decision, and I deal with some of the techniques that were used at that time. So it was a very difficult. I had to do a lot of research. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on women who had gone through that kind of challenge. Did they have increased rates in suicide? Did they have increased rates in alcoholism? And the stats were quite overwhelming, because the sense of self-condemnation was just massive, and the fear of not being able to tell people what they've done and not being able to process the emotions. So in the book, there are a couple of really difficult conversations that people have. Mary is not my main character, but she is instrumental in something devastating that happens to the kingdom because of the relationships she formed. And that adds even more to her guilt. I don't know how many of you have made some kind of really big botch-up mistake. And book deals a lot with those kinds of mistakes, and how when our self-esteem is not good, we can open ourselves there. It happens when you have an unsupportive, emotionally abusive primary care relationship. It affects your self-esteem so much. And predators prey on that kind of thing. They know the kind of words you want to hear. I felt this myself. My unplanned pregnancy was definitely through someone who didn't have a relationship with my biological the biological father. As soon as he found out I was pregnant, he was gone, and it was an incredibly traumatic experience for me. So I took a lot of those characteristics that I'd come across with people, and I unpacked that in the book. So if you know of someone who is going through some of the challenges, I'd encourage you to actually purchase the book. It comes out on the 3rd of November. The book. No one's going to say, oh, is that a book about abortion? No, it's not a book about abortion. It is a book about a series of medieval characters going through their life, about the silver-winged dragon whisperers trying to find out who she is and what her purpose is. But Mary is the person that brings this very important in that book. While I was writing the book, I still feel emotional now when I think about this young woman, because it reminds me of the woman that I know, and the fear that people face is just dreadful. I was with a young woman that had this termination, and she contacted me and she said to me, can I get the telephone number of this lady who's had the abortion, because I've got a friend who wants to speak to her. And I said, well, I really have to protect that person's privacy. I don't think she wants anyone to know that she had an abortion. It was a private thing that she shared with me. And so I didn't give out the information. And then when I fell pregnant, and it was an unplanned pregnancy, same thing, she was hysterical. And I'm like, you are more worked up about the pregnancy, unplanned pregnancy, than what I am. And she then confessed to me that she had had a termination about the pregnancy, unplanned pregnancy, than what I am. And she then confessed to me that she had had a termination. And why wouldn't you speak to me? Why wouldn't you tell me that you're going through this kind of trauma? And she said to me, she feared I would judge her, go through life, and they are lonely. They feel like no one will understand them, that everyone will judge them. I was devastated. I felt that my friend didn't trust me enough to speak about it. And I unpacked that lesson for my own children. I told my daughter, I have my value system. And sometimes you might do things that might cross. I told my daughter, I have my value system. And sometimes you might do things that might cross and give me a few moments to be disappointed, to express that disappointment, because I'm not a robot, I'm a real person. But once I've had, and give me a few moments to be disappointed, to express that disappointment, because I'm not a robot, I'm a real person. But once I've had, you face. So for me, she ended up to me about what she was going through. She ended up taking something that a male friend of hers had recommended, and she went through all of that emotion alone without any of her sisterhood standing together with her. And I just want to say that standing with someone who's gone through that torment does not mean that you are condoning of her sisterhood standing together. I just want to say that standing with someone who's gone through that torment does not mean that you are condoning it. You have the right to feel that way, but it doesn't mean that you no longer love, don't agree with lying. And your kids might lie to you. Does that mean that we write them off or love them through it? And so this particular book is just a tribute to those women who are standing of what these women are going through before they judge, condemn, or point fingers. It does not imply that I am an activist. Implies is that I am an activist for having compassion of Mary is about in book number 2. It is called The Fire Within the Storm, and it is a book that you could give to a teenager, to a young adult, to an older person who's facing those kinds of challenges, that they can have a way of processing their emotions and thinking about what it is that they feel and deciding who they can trust to just let go of some of those emotions. It was a deeply distressing time for me to research the work. It kind of triggers the risk of me having a seizure, and I haven't had a full-blown seizure for over 18 years, but that's because I manage myself. And after I watched some of the interviews with women who've gone through this, and after I watched it just distressed me so much that these people, it just distressed me so much that these people, it's enough. You're not going to watch any more of these videos because it's really affecting you. And I would say, Babs, I have to finish. I have to finish because of the challenges that these women went through. So that's a little bit about Mary. Something about her journey, and I hope that this has been very helpful to you, even if you are not into about her journey. And I hope that this has been very helpful to you, even if you are not into medieval fantasy. I hope that the video will allow you to feel a little bit more about what's happening with the character chat for the day, and I look forward to receiving that they faced. Then please put in the comment section there what are the things that you want to find out, and if you've got a topic that you think really is worthy of being included in one of my future novels, I'd love to hear about that as well. Have a super day. Bye for now.